Hi, welcome to the Realtors Conspiracy Podcast. Today I'm with Tony Iacoviello and we're going to talk about branding. Tony's done an amazing job at branding himself under the Geeky agent, and he is with REMAX escarpment. So Tony, how are you?
I am awesome, Mo. Thank you for having me today. It's awesome.
Thank you. How long have you been with REMAX escarpment?
The entire time I've been in real estate. So I've been in real estate a little bit less than 7 years, right from day one with Conrad at REMAX escarpment. So.
Cool. How long have you been the Geeky agent?
The Geeky agent took a little bit longer to come around. So I was probably in the business for about 2 years or so, and it started as the real estate geek, or the Hamilton real estate geek, or the geeky realtor from your neighborhood, the friendly neighborhood real estate geek. It had like all these different versions going on at the same time. I actually started as Tony's Homes. So I tried to kind of simplify it. We've had conversations before. A lot of people can't say my last name. Yeah. So Tony's Homes was a lot easier for people to remember. So we started that way, but then the geeky part kind of filtered into it probably about 2 years in, 2 or 3 years in. So for the last 3 years or so, it's been just the Geeky agent. At one point, it got rid of all the other ones and just went with that one.
Yeah, very cool. And what made you decide to go with the Geeky agent?
That's just who I am. I think really more than anything else, like I'm a geek. I tell everybody I'm not embarrassed, not shy about it at all. At this point, being a geek's not really as looked down upon as it used to be probably at some point, right? Like, you know, most mainstream movies, or the biggest mainstream movies, are things like Avengers and Wonder Woman and all these science fiction. So it's pretty much part of the culture right now. But that's been my passion since I was a kid. So drawing those superhero characters and all that kind of stuff. I started actually with REMAX. I got the opportunity to go to their convention in Las Vegas to draw cartoons about what was happening at the convention.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, so that was a few years ago, and they asked me to go down, and it just kind of became a thing. It became what I became known for. So I figured, might as well run with it because I'm having fun doing it. It was a really memorable type thing for people to see. And it gave me the opportunity to really talk about whatever I wanted to talk about, but through a different medium. So I could use my real estate geek cartoon character to kind of talk about real estate, to talk about karma, to talk about all kinds of things that were important to me. And it just was an easy way for people to remember me. So little by little, that geekiness came out in my branding and my marketing and stuff. You figured, people seem to like it. They're responding to it, so let's run with it.
Yeah. And then when you think about it, your geeky is your persona, but how did the brand, the design, how did you come across? Tell us about your background in marketing and.
Yeah, so I do have a bit of a background in marketing. So before getting into real estate, I worked for a laboratory supply company. I've always had a passion for marketing. So even when I was a kid, in the days before Google and the internet and stuff, we're at the library looking through like the big annual marketing awards books and just flipping through and looking at all the different graphic design that people were using and marketing and advertising. I've always loved it. And I've always been an artist. I've always been drawing and that sort of thing. So it kind of came out really naturally. So my character, the real estate geek that was in the comics, people seemed to really like him, and they identified me and him as being the same person, right? So he became essentially me in all my branding, kind of cleaned up the image a little bit. So you can really see a progression from the first couple of times that I drew him versus how I draw him now. Like you can see how he's, gotten a little bit cleaner and a little bit nicer looking, that kind of thing. And then, the branding after that, I really stuck with the REMAX branding. They're the most recognized national, even international brand. So I figured, might as well leverage that. They've got a lot more money than I do. So as far as marketing is concerned, I don't have millions, so I might as well piggyback off of them.
But at the same time, the red and blue from the REMAX is also the colors of the Superman, Avengers, Spider-Man.
It fits in.
These are colors that we see a lot. It's
very bright and bold colors. Yeah, and very memorable. Like I said, even in comic books, I put up a few pictures. Whenever there is a house for sale, it's the red, white, and blue. It doesn't say REMAX on it, but it's got the red, white, and blue for sale sign in it. So it's very recognizable. It's very common. Just incorporated that. And I've always, with that little bit of background I had, eventually at the science supply company, I did end up in the marketing department working with them. So with that experience and that sort of understanding of how branding works, I just try to keep it uniform across all the different platforms, because I saw people were, they'd have one kind of logo on Twitter, something else on Facebook, something else on YouTube. The business cards are a little bit different. They'd have blue business cards and red logos here. And we actually discussed this. We do a lot of training at Escarpment. So we have a lot of group sessions, like mastermind type stuff. And, we kind of, one of the points that I brought up to some of the people there was that, people are going to flip around. They're going to check you out on Facebook, but then they're going to find the link to your YouTube channel. Then they're going to go check you out on Twitter. And you don't want them going to each of those and meeting a different person each time, right? It's kind of like having a conversation. Halfway through, I leave the room and change my clothes and come back in. You kind of, you want it to be consistent in all those platforms, even though it has to change to meet the specifications of that platform. Yeah. But you want that consistent branding, that consistent image. And that's what REMAX does. I mean, they've got the red, white, and blue sign. They've had it for 40 something years. And it's that recognizable because it's been consistent for that long.
Yeah, no, very good. And then, so you have your background in marketing that helped a lot. And then in the process of it, did it just fall into places easily, other than changing the slogan, but actually the design evolved, the consistency? Is that something you learned throughout, or you had it in you?
A lot of trial and error. I don't mind making mistakes.
Yeah.
I don't mind, I'll make a t-shirt, and I'll throw it out there and wear it for a while. And if I get negative feedback from it, it's like, oh, well, I guess we got to try and make something else.
Okay.
Right.
Cool.
So, I've had coffee mugs and t-shirts and posters and all kinds, and, just even thank you cards and all that kind of stuff. So I get bored easily. I don't know, maybe that's part of it. I just like trying a whole bunch of different things. And there's so many tools online that you can use just to play around and do what you want to do and try different things. And Facebook, to me, has been a great resource because I've got a large enough sort of following, I guess, that I'll throw those ideas out there.
And you'll ask for feedback.
And just get feedback from people. Say, hey, what do you think? And I'll put 4 different versions of a banner for a trade show. And it'd be like, which ones do you think and why and what should change? And then I've got another little group of geeky realtors I call the League of Real Estate Geeks.
Oh, cool, the League.
Yeah, so that's us. And it's the same. They're like me. They have a love of pop culture, different versions of it. Some of them are really big sci-fi fans. Yeah. Some are huge Star Wars fans or Star Trek and stuff like that. And but they all have this passion for pop culture, and they also happen to be really fantastic real estate agents. So there's people in the group that work for Inman and work for all different brands across Canada and the United States. I've worked for the New York Times. So they're really involved in real estate, but they also have this other passion. Okay. So it's a really tight group of about 30 or so people. Okay, that grows very slowly. We refer people to the group.
Do you fight sometimes Star Wars with Star Trek?
Absolutely, yeah. Every time there's a new Star Wars movie, we start up a group chat, and it's free for all. It's all nerd fights in there, right? This why this is great. And I even watch half, and I'm pretty educated as far as that goes. But even then, I'm put to shame by some of those guys. I just watch them. It's like, well, in this book of this series, I don't even know what you're talking about. So I just let them go ahead and fight. I just supervise, make sure everybody's being nice. But yeah, I throw my ideas out to them, and they'll in that little group. It's very much a safe space that you can kind of just throw out ideas and say, hey, I'm thinking of incorporating my geekiness in this way into my business. What do you all think? And it's, again, we have a really good mix of people who are in training and recruiting and marketing, that they can all kind of give their perspective. Some of them are brand new in the business. Some have been in the business 20, 30 years. So you get that perspective from all these different people, and you can kind of use it to fine tune what you're doing before you put it out there. So it's an amazing resource that way.
Keep it as a business perspective too, because you're still a real estate agent.
Yeah.
So it has to stay.
Yeah, you have to find that balance.
Guidelines balance.
Yeah, you always have to kind of, I always tell people, there's a real big push for authenticity, which is true. I mean, you want to put forward who you are. You don't want to be fake. But at the same time, you want to put forward the best version of yourself. Yeah. Right? You don't want to be on Facebook the way you would be on your couch in your underwear on a Sunday night, being a lazy slob watching TV, because nobody wants to see that. No. And they don't want to hire that person to sell real estate. So you want to find that balance in there where you're still being professional, you're still conveying that you are an expert at what you're doing, but incorporating your passion for what you're doing into your business. And I've seen other people since then, kind of, that I know, doing the same kind of thing, maybe not in pop culture, but they'll do things like they're really big motorcycle fans and riders and stuff like that. So they start to incorporate that into their branding, I guess. And a lot of it happens naturally. You just, especially on Facebook, you just sort of, I think you find yourself talking about things, and then you become kind of known for that. And it sort of just organically almost grows into something.
It attracts other people who are the same.
Yeah, absolutely. You build a little community, and not necessarily a geographic community, but a like-minded community of like other people who are motorcycle enthusiasts, right? And then at some point, I think it grows to a point where you say to yourself, okay, I've built this sort of fan base, I guess, if you want to call it that, or people recognize me for this. Maybe I should take the next step and kind of make it into a brand and make it, polish it up. And then that's when you kind of seek help from people like yourself, marketing departments, to kind of say, here's my vision. How do I make this into something that's presentable to the public, that's consistent, that's going to really resonate with a lot of people, right?
Yeah. No, like you said, people that have different pieces that are different. I always say consistency. Keep your stuff looking the same.
Yeah.
I like that. Like I always say, being an entrepreneur is very lonely at the start. Like you're by yourself, you're looking at your thing yourself. But I like that you're seeking groups and chat and growing this part of it, so that it's not as lonely.
No, it can be. I think you tend to get lost sometimes. Everybody who I speak to who are sort of new in the business, they're kind of looking for advice. Yeah. Right? And they always kind of want to like, how do I spend my days? Like when I wake up on Monday morning, what do I do? Yeah. Right? And there's tons of books and things like that out there, but it's difficult. It's a lot better to have somebody who's like a mentor or a group that you can rely on and talk. And escarpment kind of gives you that. I mean, ever since I went there, one of the things that attracted me there is that there is a lot of training and that there are a lot of group, like sort of masterminds, and that people like Conrad and the other managers are always available. Like, so that really, that one piece of it anyways really rang true to me. Is like, essentially, I mean, I could pick up my phone right now and, send Conrad a message and he'll get back to me in like 10 minutes. Yeah. Right? So that kind of thing.
The help is
absolutely. There. And not only that, but a desire to help you. Yeah. Right? So it's not a matter of just getting you in and, filling the seats kind of thing. Yeah. It's like they want to see you be successful. So any place that I've worked, that's kind of what I've looked for, is a place that isn't just looking for me to contribute to them, because I know that I can do that. I know how hard I work, and I know what my background is and what I bring to the table. Like what I need to know is, if I'm going to work for you, how are you going to help me? Like, how are you going to help me become successful? And do you have the tools available, training, support, whatever it is, that's going to make me feel confident enough to be successful? And that's really important, especially if you're an entrepreneur. Unfortunately, with things like social media, like there's tons of different groups and training and things that you can seek out, but you do have to take that first step to go look for it.
Yeah, and then follow through.
And follow through. Yeah, and that's the other thing that we learned there. Essentially, Conrad says, and I quote him all the time, is the 3 E's of training. It says education without execution is just entertainment.
Nice.
Right. So if you're just there, sit in the sessions and you clap and cheer and this is fantastic.
Take
and all
photos,
that. Yeah. Write a bunch of notes and then you never look at them again. You never do anything with it.
Yeah.
Then you're just there to be entertained, right?
Yeah. Well, that's true. What would you say to a new agent starting, how to build their brand or how to go about it? What would be your number one thing?
Just know yourself. Really. Yeah. I think that's key. I think Simon Sinek came up with a book a while ago. Your why, like know your why, that's pretty popular. But that idea has been around for a long time. I think he distilled it very well in his book, simplified it so people could really understand that to know what you have to offer, you really have to understand yourself. Yeah. So what kind of person are you? What's your personality like? What are your strong suits? What are you not good at? That kind of thing. Once you kind of, are really honest with yourself and really figure out what it is you have to offer and why you're doing what you're doing, then the branding part's pretty easy at that point. It's like, well, I am sort of a nurturing, like parent type person. I like to help people in that way. Well, then you're branding the images that you use, the colors, the type of, the copy that you use and what you're writing sort of goes with that, right? And then it's easier to create that because it is true to you, right? So it's easier than trying to fake, like, if you're not this like really hardcore in your face negotiator type person, then trying to pretend to be that is very difficult. Yeah. And people can tell.
Yeah.
Right?
Or people that are not numbers, but then they would try to be all about numbers and investment and be smart in business. But then if you're not a numbers person, you're not a numbers person.
Yeah, if that's just not your strong suit, at least be willing to bring in the experts and be the person who can connect people to those experts. Right? So even for me, like I deal with people who do like to do investments in Hamilton, Burlington, that kind of thing. And I'm good to a point. And then once it gets to like, what are the tax implications of this? Or what are the zoning implications of these other things? It's like, well, I can give you advice to a certain point, but then I'm going to refer you to someone who is a tax expert or an accounting expert, and just be the person who can connect you to those people, right?
It's more integrity. Shows
Yeah.
A lot more integrity. Cool. Well, thank you so much. I could talk about branding with you forever.
You could.
Thank you for coming today.
Absolutely, anytime.